So we're going to move into credible and approachable voice tones with some of the nonverbals that you'll notice. You're familiar with this already. We've given it to you before. So we're just adding things to it that you will notice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is we're going to practice the approachable voice pattern, which is when you're saying the words, you want to slightly have a little rhythm in your head going. There's a movement in the body.
Now you want to stop short of looking like one of those little dogs in the back of a window. The head's moving too much. But just a very slight movement.
There's a natural rhythm. It tends to, if you get more into the right hemisphere, it will come a little more easily because approachable is a more right hemisphere function. At the end of the words spoken, oftentimes there'll be a little lifting of the head, or that sort of connecting in that way.
It's like the chin will finish up slightly when you're being a little more approachable, so it'll tend to go up just a little bit. It's
right.
almost like seeking it, but seeking information.
Right, and then the head will move back down to the original position during silence. And there is something I just thought of here, where, not to get confused, there are some people who have had some dysfunction in their childhood, and they tend to go through the world this way. Just because their chin is up doesn't mean they're being approachable. This is what we call a dissociated place in the world. And look, my eyes are way down in the eye socket, so I'm actually in my kinesthetic feeling, which is not cool to be there all the time. So getting someone that metaphor, get your head on straight, is that literally getting into your eyes. This is, I'm not here, see, you can't see me. And it's a different map we're charting with.
Right.
This is where we finish a sentence, and there might be that little up at the end.
But then,
And then just come
then
back
it goes
to
back to neutral.
Right. When I'm standing, I'm going to notice that I may have my feet slightly pointed out a little bit, or I may have my weight more over onto one side. My arms generally are going to be bending here at the elbows, and palms up, as you see me do a lot.
Well, generally speaking, for approachable, the arms may bend, but they'll bend at a slight angle, where with credible, as you see, it's more of a 90-degree or down at the side. So short of 90 degrees would be...
About here.
Yeah, so it would be, whereas more 90-degree tends to be a more credible.
This you can carry something, this I'm going to drop it.
Right.
I'm sharing my things with you, right? And the arms and the head will move together. Again, there's much more rhythm in the body when you're doing approachable. Credible voice pattern has then holding the head a little bit higher so that you can finish with the words with the head coming down.
Right. So it also tends to end the breathing sequence for that. It's when the head comes down, it tends to stop the breathing. It's like easier to stop it, so it tends to send a credible message.
Right. And again, the head's going to stay down until the last syllable is finished, and then it will come back in the silence. Right? So the approachable's here, credible's here, or exaggerating slightly.
And it's not tucking it in enough that it like cuts off the air or anything.
Right.
It's just like it goes from here down to here and then back.
Right.
So it's subtle.
And remember, we talked about the credible voice tone goes along regularly and then it finishes. The approachable voice is going to have a little more lilt along the way.
And will tend to finish up at the end, almost like a question, because once again, approachable is welcoming or seeking information, and credible goes along and then down because it's sending information.
Right. So again, for the credible body, you're going to see standing with toes more pointed more directly straight ahead. I know you can't see, but my toes are straight ahead. Weight's going to be on both feet, and we recommend as a presenter that you keep that credible voice, because when you start getting over here, you're going to look too casual. So it's making sure that your knees are flexed and you've got your feet straight ahead with some width between. You don't want your feet right tucked together because you look like you're going to tip over. So feet apart.
Should be about shoulder,
6
just
inches
under shoulder width.
Right.
Yeah.
Knees relaxed slightly so that you have some movement and flexibility. Weights even on both feet. And as Al just said, the arms are going to be at the elbow, and the palms can be in or up or down. Either way, there's more flexibility there.
This is more approachable than this is.
Yes.
So
for sure.
palms up is more approachable, even though they're both at 90 degrees.
Right. Another refinement is to have, the other thing is to just be hands down. I had, again, trained myself to this, at like, ooh, what do I do with my hands? Because I talk so much with my hands. This is very calming, to just stand with your hands down at the side. And the palms generally will point my fingers are down and my palms
Yeah.
are inward. Yeah. So now we have another voice patterns with the movement. So these are 3 phases of conversation, and you have this chart in your manual so you can look at it more closely. There's the pausing phase, there's the speaking phase, and the listening phase of any conversation, right? So if we go back to the pausing phase,
On the credibility side,
it's easy to remain silent in the pause, harder for the approachable voice. Needs to breathe.
speak toward the camera if you can.
Needs to breathe deep and know that you know the speaker's okay.
And then
Oftentimes there's
no pause, a fear of losing the listener's attention.
Yeah. So the pause, we recommend being more just silent, calm. Then when we're speaking, the credible head is more still.
Right.
The approachable head bobs,
And the voice would be more flat, less fluctuation to it.
and the approachable voice is more rhythmic. And then the intonation will curl down. Sorry, intonation will curl down.
And the approachable will curl up.
Because he's practicing approachable, I practice credible. And then in the listening phase, if I'm sitting still, I'm going to just be sitting straight and listening.
Mhm.
Here, I may lean forward a little bit, and I may have much more of that head nod going at the
So
same time.
It's closer, it's connecting.
Mhm.
It's like, yes, I'm involved, tell me more.
The head again still and bobbing. When there's silence or sound, over here in credibility it's silent, and over here they're making signs. There's mouth noises and
Yeah.
singing to themselves, a little bit of whistle under their breath, that kind of thing that is disquieting.
Well, you'll get a lot of, yeah, this kind of thing. So even in agreement, when
and
when it's not necessary.
when they're listening, if they were to talk while they're listening, they'll be removed from the other person, or they'll say their name and ask a lot of questions, like to the speaker.
Right.
Right.
Excuse me.
And then these are some of the, I would say, very, very gross
Generalized.
generalities. Yeah. that
Well,
often-
and because we're talking about perceptions, not reality.
Right. That it is assumed that in gender, male is more credible, female more approachable
In our culture.
in our culture. The credible position, the person is perceived as higher, which is why it's so important in presenting that you have that talent. Approachability is great for gathering information, but they don't have quite the position.
And that's only in that category of position.
The assets, the credible person is easier to send information and to decide. The approachable, again, is seeking information and gathering information. They may not get to that decision point as easily.
Right.
When you give them compliments, you're complimenting, or if they give compliments, they're giving a compliment about the position.
So I would compliment Marilyn as a trainer. Marilyn would compliment me as a person.
Right. So I would say to you, I really love the way you kept some good humor tonight in the training. It was cool.
And you stayed on task. You really did a good job.
Right,
So stayed on task. I mean, that's your position. So
yeah, right.
you were an excellent trainer today.
Thank you. All right. And then continuing with the correlations, credible voice tends to be perceived as power-oriented, and approachable is more influence-oriented. It's like, well, let me just see if I can influence you to do it rather
Right. So
than be
the
over.
credible position would require something to be done, and that's the power. Whereas the approachable would find a way to sway or influence, right?
Right. The credible person is more focused on the issues.
Mhm.
The approachable focus is on relationship, which makes sense. And we remember when we're doing our strategic processing filters, we recommend that you develop both and have them in balance. Positional communication and credibility, there's a hierarchy. I'm at the top and you guys are underneath, where it's more egalitarian for the approachability. It's like, oh yeah, we're all equal. We don't need a leader.
And the expectation is interesting. The credible person is supposed to know, and the approachable position is supposed to learn.
Yeah. So these are things to watch for. You'll see it out in the world. It's fascinating how they go together. Then when we look at the kinesthetics and the movement, there's a stillness, again, and movement in the credible and approachable. we're going to have weight more on both feet equally as credible.
Which we talked about a little bit earlier.
Toe straight ahead, sort of fashion posture would be that, so that down the runway, one hand on your hip kind of
You
thing.
did that good.
Gestures would be palms down, gestures palm up, credible and approachable. And gestures extending away from me. I am the power center giving to you. Coming from the listener to the speaker. Okay, you tell me what you want me to do.
Yep.
And the most common perceptions of the listener, when we're back to our
Well,
breathing again.
This is one of the major reasons why breathing is so important and to know how it's connected to credible and approachable.
Right.
And this once again is perception, and you can try it. We'll try and do a little bit of it.
All right.
With the credible pattern, with breathing high,
So now Val give me a direction, but he's going to breathe high when he tells me what to do.
okay, you tell me what to tell you.
Something I'm going to be doing.
Okay,
Put the computer away.
all right. Okay, I'm just gonna try and get my breathing high. All right. You need to put your computer away when we're finished teaching tonight.
See, that's hard for him because he doesn't do that often. But that felt over
Well,
here a little more like he was angry.
Yeah,
He wasn't inviting me to do it. He was just,
yeah. Because my breathing is high, it almost sounds like panic in me because that's what high breathing relates to. But because I'm in a credible pattern, I'll demonstrate the difference. So with low breathing, say,
same thing.
all right. So let me get my breathing back. So you need to put your computer away when we're through teaching tonight.
See, that was just
It's just a fact.
inviting to do it.
It's just I'm confident you need to do that. But if the same message, breathing high, will be perceived as anger. And you know what? If I'm breathing high, there's probably going to be more intensity, and it might feel very similar to anger.
Right, because he means he's in distress over something.
Right. So with the approachable pattern, high breathing will be interpreted as being in panic or scared or fear.
Right.
And with the low
Certainly
breathing,
distress.
approachable, it will be friendly and kind, the
So
perception.
So high breathing would be, I just saw what happened and I don't know what to do about it. It's just terrifying me.
That's irritating.
Yeah. Okay, so I breathe low.
Okay, take it.
I don't know what to do about it. I just saw what happened and it's pretty terrifying.
That's really a major difference. I mean, for me, just
Yeah.
hearing it,
So this is again about our rapport and
you
levels
still
of
sounded
permission.
solid.
But I was still
But
not happy.
it was more about, I care about what I said, I don't know what to do.
Right.
It's really an interesting pattern.
Yeah, so we encourage you to practice these with someone that's safe. In other words, you're explaining to them what you're doing as if you want to practice. Now we're going to move into economy of movement, which is that sense of what are the movements when you're presenting. So we talk about being congruent. We talk about being in your state of being. We talk about knowing your content and your message. We want your gestures and your voice tone and your movements to match. I had one trainer she had her hair cut so that it fell forward. It was beautiful. But most of the training she spent doing this. And she'd be talking when she's doing
And this would be literally about every 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah, because her hair would fall on her face and then she'd flip it back. Totally unaware of it. It was not her.
She was aware of it.
You think so?
Yeah, we
Okay.
pointed it out.
At any rate, so we're watching for those things that are not supporting your message.
Well, and they become distracting. It's
Right.
almost like the ums and uhs.
Well, like Al said, this kind of gesture, or if I'm twiddling my fingers, or anything that is sort of not appropriate for the message that I'm sending. So
Right.
we're just going to have you watching for some of your own, as you're presenting or teaching or training or wherever you are reaching the public, just question yourself. Maybe take a little video of you doing a short piece of work and just kind of watch with that eye of saying, okay, how is that relevant to your presentation? Was that something that supported it, or was it extra? Or how does that support your message?
So do you want to do one and I'll challenge you or task you or question you?
All right.
All right.
All right, so I'll try and throw some things in.
So I'll be a little off to the side and watching, and she's just gonna do something very short.
I find it's extremely important when we're working with beliefs to make sure that when someone says, I think something, that you ask them, let them know that when they're thinking it, it means they're believing it.
Okay, so I'm curious. All right, when you're talking about when somebody's thinking something, and then your hand stopped, and then you held your hand up, how does that support your message?
I was kind of in the process of thinking was the circular movement, like the thoughts are going round and round. And then when I paused and said, now you're going to question,
Okay.
and let them know that it's really not, it is a thought, but it is also a belief.
Ah, okay. So the thought becomes, okay, yeah,
So
that makes sense.
That made it more, if it's a thought in motion, it's more changeable than if it's a belief.
Right.
It means it's going to happen over and over, and if it's not
Okay.
supporting them,
So what she's doing is she's justifying that there was purpose and value to her message. Okay, now take two. All right, so do something, start again, and throw something in there that's not useful.
So when we're working with beliefs and someone says, well, I think I'm not good enough, you know that you're dealing with a limiting belief. In order to do something about that, what I want you to do is just to get that sense of movement and get them away from that.
You do anything incongruent?
I thought so. This I would never do.
But you were doing it. They're in a hubbub.
Oh, okay. See, I can't.
Okay, here. I'll.
Too many years of practicing.
Right. Okay. So, like Marilyn was talking about, we all have our interactions, and we tend to think our beliefs are actually real. We believe them, but we. So obviously,
Time.
what do I have to do?
Yeah.
Pick my ears or something?
Right. And even if you have an itch, if you're presenting, as much as you can, resist the temptation.
Well, if you
It will
can,
be noticed.
and it's okay. I mean, we're under the lights here. Sometimes it gets warm, and I have to do this. Personal comfort is important. When it becomes more important than what I'm saying, it's like.
Well, and sometimes we develop little movements or habits, or I have one person, a client, that as he's talking and the more excited he gets, the more he rubs his nose. I don't think he's even aware of it.
Oh.
It's not something we're working on. He hasn't asked for me to do that. If he was up in front of the public, I might mention it to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just something he does. The more excited he gets, the more he rubs his nose. I think it's a thinking gesture, right? So have fun with this and notice the economy of movement. Now, there is something that's important in your economy of movement is with your eye contact with your audience. So when you're looking, you don't want to look directly at individuals' eyes, because that will pull you out of and connect with them, and you may smile at them because there's a one-on-one contact, and the rest of the group will wonder what you're doing. That's not economy of movement. If you look at someone just above their eyes, their forehead, or just over the top of their head, it will be perceived that you're looking at them, particularly the further away you are from them.
But they won't feel zeroed in on
They
either.
won't feel zeroed in on, but you're looking in their general direction. So the larger the audience, obviously, the more it'll be sort of vagueness. Also,
Well,
then
and how far away they are.
from the
Right.
speaker, right? If there's footlights or whatever else that might be separating you. Also, then you want to be not just randomly sort of scanning the group and looking around, because that's now not purposeful. And you want to be able to sort of look at your hall, whatever size group you're looking at, and segment it so you've got the close and mid-range and far, and then you have your stage right, center stage, and stage left, so that you're going to be finding a systematic way of making sure you're including here, and then you may come down to here and then there, and then maybe more in the center, maybe a little closer. Maybe you remember if there's a balcony, you want to hit the balcony too. So as you're doing something, it's not rapid fire, but you may, depending on how you're using your stage, and we recommend, one of the things we're not showing here, you won't see as much, but sometimes you have people who just randomly wander on the stage.
I was thinking about the same. Remember the guy was.
Yeah.
We watched a speaker that was speaking to a semi-captive audience, and there was a stage, and it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He'd look, once in a while he'd look at the group, and I literally told Marilyn, I said, if you hand me a BB gun, I can win you a little Koopy doll. And it was literally just like a carnival.
With no, I mean, every once in a while he kind of looked, but then he was internally talking to himself with a microphone on.
Right. It was, I thought at first he was doing it as a teaching point or something, but it became so distracting.
And laughable.
Yeah, and he may have said something really valuable. I don't know if anybody would have heard it or noticed it.
And as Al said, it was more of a captive audience, so there wasn't an option to just get up and leave. So we invite you to enjoy watching.
It would have just been a less polite option.
Yes.
It's always an option.
Watching different speakers now with this new filter of what are they doing naturally, because we certainly can't present everything here, and all of these things do occur naturally. It's just we're sort of freeze framing and pointing out some things that will be useful for you to get your message across. So enjoy this. I have one team, a couple that came to me, and they went through our 2 years of training, and at the end the wife said to me one time, she said, once we did that presentation skills with you, she said, I can't watch some of those speakers now that I thought were kind of amazing. Now I recognize what they were doing and manipulating and tricking and being incongruent. She said it really is, she was appreciating it, but she said she was noticing why she was uncomfortable with those people.
Yeah.
So please go through your movement, through your experiential exercises, and we will see you next time. Thank
Enjoy.
you.